how they can get creative and change up their Mondays?
Yes.
So I created this really cool creative network called Natural Beauties Arts and Ideas Creative Network. And we do these creative sanctuary sessions every second and fourth Monday of the month. And they're super fun. What do you think about them? Because I know you've been to a few.
Oh, I've been to a few, and I have to tell you, when you told me about this the first time, I was like, Mondays, I don't like to schedule anything on Mondays because I just like to flow into my week and not have anything on the calendar. And then I was like, you know what? It's Stephanie. I'm gonna pop in and just see what this is all about.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I did. Because joke's on me. I was able to pick up an old sketch pad that I've had for a year, not touched,
Mhm.
and some watercolors. And I was able to just sit there and play. And it was fun. And
Yeah.
it released a lot of the nervousness and anxiety that I was experiencing over, okay, it's a new week and I got to do this and I got to da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I was just able to release all that. And I had fun and I
Mhm.
created. So when you said sanctuary, I'm like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it's all about is just engaging that right side of your brain, that creative side where we can, in doing so, it brings joy and happiness and innovation. And ultimately, that energy flows over into our business, into our personal lives. And, it just makes us happier and more efficient. And like our problem solving skills actually get better. Like all sorts of things improve. It's so cool.
Totally.
So I'd love to have you join us on a creative session, second and fourth Mondays of the month, noontime Eastern Standard Time. And the website that you can go to check it out is my link tree. So linktr.ee/natural_beauties. Um, and that will get you there. You can check it out, you can register and learn more about it. Hope to see you there.
Yay.
All right. Hello and welcome to Smiling Souls with Wendy and Steph. Today is a beautiful day. And Wendy, do you want to share about who we have on the show today?
Oh, of course. I'm so excited. Hi and welcome, everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to Chef Agathe. For over 20 years, Chef Agathe is thriving with a life free of crippling arthritis. Her passion is to guide all ages into making every meal a delicious, healing meal. So I would love for you to welcome Chef Agathe to Smiling Souls. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, you're very, very welcome. And so I would love to just jump right in and talk to you and ask you about something here about your growing up. Let's just go with that. You talked about your mom visiting and turning your kitchen into chaos. Your mom and biological mother both were absolutely loved by your children. Your grand aunt lived with you also for a precious time, also a precious time for you as a child. And before we got started, you were kind of talking about the generational living and how that impacted you and how you learned a lot. And your uncle, right? You learned a lot about gardening from him. Your great aunt loved life and laughed a lot. Oh, I can see that in you, Chef Agathe. I can see the laughter and the love. I can see how your uncle and his love of gardening brought you to where you're at today. You had said that they both taught you respect, love for your family, extended family sharing. Both of your mothers, your biological mother, your adopted mother, were women of action, getting the job done, contribution, love life. Oh my gosh, I can see all of that reflected in you. And so I would love to find out more about how your growing up evolved you into what you're doing now. And what do you do?
Yes. Oh, yes. So, well, what I do is I'm a living cuisine chef. So I learned about raw food, and that really, there you go, resolved totally and entirely the arthritis. Back to my childhood, the amazing fact of being with all those amazing people around me. You know, when you're in a household and you have different age, different knowledge and wisdom, but different needs. So back in the days, there was just one TV set. We didn't have many in the house. So it was like, nope, cannot watch your show because now it's Aunt Marianne that is watching that. And there was this respect and this understanding that it wasn't all just about you. You're living in a household and you share the space with those people. You talk a little bit about Aunt Marianne. She was my grand aunt. Yeah, and she was, I will never forget. She would say a few words and she would just laugh, have her body go back like this, and she had a golden teeth. Back in the days they did that. She had a gold teeth, and for me as a child, like every time I would watch her and watch what that gold teeth. Teeth or tooth? What's the single tooth? Gold tooth, coming out and seeing. But she would giggle all the time. She always found something to giggle about, even though she had her issues. She had her health issues because, I mean, at the age I was with her, I could see her, like her head was going. So she was suffering for Parkinson, but no mention of that. She just, kept on with life. And then she taught me how to do, like in Quebec, we do that. I mean, back in the days, I don't think people do that anymore. But because we had the winter, she did the toffee in October. There was a celebration for people who are single. And so she did the toffee, but I was the one to go outside at minus 20, 30, whatever it might have been. No gloves on because I had to stretch this toffee and make it. And she would watch me from the window because I would look at her like, is this enough? I'm freezing here. And we go, keep going. So I would have to stretch this thing until it got to the color she wanted. So she really taught me how to be like, you don't do things halfway. You just do them to what it should be. Yeah. And then when you talk about my uncle living with us, he was my mother's brother living with us, and amazing gardener. And of course, he did everything biodynamic. He knew about the moon and, when to plant and when to harvest. And he would, an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, it's like, and it's weekend, so he can have my help. Get up, Agathe. We're pulling the potatoes today. So again,
you're pulling taffy, you're pulling tomatoes, potatoes, whatever.
Yeah. So again, it was just like that. There's no time to. How can I say? At a young age, I learned that you benefit from doing tasks at a certain time, and that's what it was with him. And then he would say, "Okay, if you're hungry, just pull a carrot and then wipe the carrot on your pants and just eat." So, from nature. And he says, eat the greens. The greens are good, not just a carrot. And so that's my uncle, just amazing man. Both my mom, my birth mother, oh my gosh, I met her. I was 32 years old, amazing woman. And then the beauty there, it was, even though she didn't bring me up, she gave me away from adoption. I was just, she gave me away at birth. That's what they did back in the days with the nuns. She gave birth in a nunnery, like an orphanage. Yeah. And then she was sent home and I stayed there to be adopted at 6 days old. But when I met her and she would talk and we had the same way of thinking. Generous woman, amazing woman. And again, same thing. She was known in her village in New Brunswick, like that's East Canada, little village. She was known. There's a party. Ask Anna for the lemon dessert that she did. And then there was a soup she was known for. So that was my mom. And then my mom who brought me up, my adoptive mother, just an amazing way of making food. And she learned from her mom, obviously, but she had this way of preparing food where the texture was right. The aftertaste was right. The everything was she just had that. So my taste buds were basically trained by the food I ate. And that's understandably when someone says, I don't know how to cook. And I go, that can be learned at any time. And I understand that if you were not taught as a child, yes, you just don't know. But so with my mom back to the taste buds. So that's what gave me this gift when I started to make this living cuisine of being so tasty. Because it was known back in my days, 21 years ago, it was known like not tasting like much, or it was done by, a different taste buds, let's put it this way, and tasting more like you were just eating out of the garden with some dirt along with it. So it wasn't really tasteful. So I really got that from my mom. It was just beautiful. I had a childhood so rich, having that combination of my grandaunt, my uncle, and then as an adult, not that old, at 32 years old, meeting my birth mother. The people you meet in your life, it teaches you so much, and living with them, of course, just day in, day out. Like I said, it's not you, just you with you. And that enriches your, opens your horizon, enriches your understanding of different personality and how you manage and you compose with what you have. It's such a gift, such a gift.
That's beautiful. And the universe makes no mistakes. You were meant to be born to your mother. You were meant to be adopted by this family. You were meant to, so that all of this can come to fruition, and you're doing the work that you're meant to do and being the person that you were meant to be. Oh my gosh. Which brings me to something I forgot. Cards.
Yes.
So if you've watched any of these episodes, you know that Steph and I always pull cards and we share those, and Chef Agathe is into this too. And so Steph, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Sure. I can go first. So I pulled from my angel deck, my angel oracle cards, and today I pulled up the comfort card. So it's Archangel Azrael, and it says, I am with you in your time of need, helping you heal your heart. Let's see, even the strongest person experiences upsetting situations, and there's no shame in taking time to heal your heart. This is a good time to quiet reflection upon your true feelings. Write them down in a private journal, and then call upon me to bring comfort to your heart and mind. I can help you sleep better at night and put your mind at ease.
Ooh, that was beautiful. I pulled Embrace Adventure in Your Life. And I left the booklet in the kitchen, so we'll not go with that. But it says, Jesus said, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children. So this tells me to be more childlike, to lean into that. We had the priest that took me through RCIA, because I was not a cradle Catholic, I'm a convert, and who married my husband and I. He always said, remember to be childlike, Wendy. Have that childlike wonder. And I've always carried that. And sometimes I forget. So this was just a nice reminder, like, oh yeah, look at life through the eyes of a child.
Yeah, that's super important.
Right? Chef Agathe, what have you pulled?
Look at that. What do you feel?
What do you feel?
So what it says is there are many opinions around you. Some are helpful, others are distracting from your truth. Although it can be helpful to hear the thoughts of others, when it all comes down to it, you will have to come to your own decision. And that's just a beautiful card for me, because Well, as you know, what I do is different than most. Not everybody eats. Living cuisine is basically raw food. I like to call it living cuisine. It sounds more delicious. Um, so, and that's a thing of my life. That's a theme in my life of doing things different than others. And
Right.
so, and that's a great reminder for me is because I hear often, and what I hear now is, Agathe, you're 66 years old. I mean, come on, you should retire now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not. So, you keep hearing when you do not follow the masses, when you do something different than the majority, it does ruffle feathers. It
Mm-hmm.
does what put concerns into people's mind if they're your friends and they believe in something different than you do, and they want the best for you, and then they try to kind of gently, sometimes very pushy a bit, to change your mind. But is it really you? And so I came really for me to embrace who I am, and the different person that I am. And also look, like we were saying earlier, I've got the proof. I mean, when it comes to living cuisine, if you had arthritis and 21 years later, it still haven't never come back, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's something I'm doing that is kind of okay. So
Doing some things
remember
right.
of what you do, and when people comes to you, they bring their own fear, basically, their own doubts. So it's their doubts, it's their fear. It's
Mhm.
Yep.
not yours. Then send them on their way and focus on what you do. Yeah, that's what that card tells me.
Yeah.
Just amazing. An apple in
Isn't
the
it
door.
awesome? I love that. Yeah. And so here's to the ruffled feathers.
Yep.
Here's to the change makers. What did Steve Jobs say? Here's to the crazy ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hello, we are all crazy because we believe in what we are doing and we're looking for that change in the world and make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Chef Agathe, when you told me your age like a while ago, I'm like, no way. There's no way you're 66 years old. You've got the glow in your cheeks. You don't have any wrinkles. You've got bright, beautiful eyes. You do not look or act like a 66-year-old. So yeah, you're doing some things right.
Well,
But
the,
we're
the
talking
food
about
thing is super important.
Oh my
you
gosh.
were talking about childlike earlier, and I do
Yes.
embrace that. I mean, I do things
Yeah.
that people would say that it's not your age. It's my feeling, it's my passion. When it comes to, it's just amazing. When it comes to with the way I look, it's very simple, and I have it on my website. So if you go on my website to the tab that says resources, it talks
Yes.
about Zach Bush, and he explains that in raw food has a mitochondria. We have a mitochondria. When you eat raw food, when you don't alter it, you don't cook it, it meets the raw food of mitochondria meets ours, and
Mm-hmm.
it creates a crystalline water. And that water really, really hydrates the body. So I don't use any fancy cream. I have a day cream. It's from Dr. Hashka. That's all I have. I use nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that's where it comes from, is my body is hydrated from within with that crystalline water. That's why I invite people all the time. I say, no, eat more of the raw food. And then brilliantly, I must share that with the viewers, when I was in the course with Coaches Console and Wendy, my coach there, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm asking people when I talk to them, sure, you can have what I have. Just drop the cooked food and eat only raw food. And it was like, what? Because the distance to travel is so big. So now what I teach people, I have that as well, is I teach how to prepare food without cooking without creating the AGE, the advanced glycation end products, which create illnesses and will age you. So I teach that as well. It was just, and again, that helps you to get there. But yeah, that's where the glow, the energy, it all comes from the food that I eat, which is our fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about living cuisine.
So the way it works, and
Yeah.
part of it really was known by our ancestors. They knew to sprout.
Mm-hmm.
They knew to, well, they had garden, right? Like food was coming from their home, and there were no pesticides and herbicides back then. So they ate good food. Maybe it wasn't called organic, but it totally was. They kept their seeds, so they didn't, get seeds that now, if you buy seeds, you wonder what they did to it. So you have to make sure who you buy your seeds from. So our ancestors were doing that. And yes, some were cooking. I mean, it was part of it, but they had a good part of, like I said, my uncle in the garden, he ate quite a bit of raw food just there from the garden. Never mind the dirt. He ate that alone. So
that's good minerals and stuff, right?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So when you think of food, first of all, you just said minerals. So when you think of the vegetables instead of animal products, the minerals come from the soil. So who gets it first is the plants. So they might say there's some in the meat that you eat is because the animal eat the plant, that then some mineral is still in the body that you might get some when you eat the meat. But when you eat the plant, you get all of it. Right. Phytonutrients, polyphenols only come from plants, nowhere else. Nowhere else. And the other thing to debunk is Brenda Davis says that so beautifully. The protein are in the plants. So if you say, well, I must eat animal protein to get the proteins, it's because they ate plants. And if they didn't eat plants, carnivores eat herbivores. So so now you're three steps removed from the source.
Right.
So the more you can eat this living food, and living food is, yes, we sprout. When you sprout, you remove the anti-nutrients. The plants are very, very smart. I mean, obviously, they've been there way longer than us. So when you think of a nut, let's take a brown nut, a legume, a seed. There is anti-nutrients to protect the seed so it won't be attacked by bugs. It won't grow mold. There is that to protect it. Now, if when you ingest it, if you do not bring it to the stage of a plant, that means what does happen in nature? It rains, it washes off the anti-nutrients, the seeds fall in the ground, starts to germinate, and it grows a plant. So what you do at home is you take all your legumes, your brown nuts, your seeds, you soak them, you rinse them very, very well, and then you'll see that kind of foamy thing. Like the water isn't clear at first. So you see the foam, and the foam are the anti-nutrients. And the silly part of it is that we invest money in buying our grocery. Well, if you don't rinse off those anti-nutrients, when you eat the food, part of it is not yours. It grabs with the anti-nutrients, and then it goes through your waste. You're not even getting it. It's kind of silly, and it's not a big deal. And again, I have that, of course, in my courses. There is quite a bit on my YouTube as well that you can go and find out. There's lots online. Just do sprouting. I mean, there's lots of information. And when you get, that's the other thing, it's beautiful. When I started to feed my family this way, children, you give them a meal, and an hour later, they're in the fridge. You see their little butts sticking out the fridge. They're looking at what else they can eat. It's nonstop. Well, when I started to feed my children this way, it stopped. They would come to me for a snack, an apple, an orange, a carrot, mid-afternoon. But they were not hungry because their body was fed. What are we seeing now and more is difficulties for people to stay lean, because the food they eat is devoid of nutrients, and the body keeps saying, I'm hungry. And then we keep eating. So go to whole foods. That's really the key. And the more you stay with whole foods, let me tell you, oh my gosh, the people I'm coaching are just brilliant. Sharon, it's so arthritis was a thing for her. So she says, Agathe, I wake up in the morning and I don't feel my knees. I said, no, we're not supposed to feel our knees.
Right.
She can get up a bed, she goes, she walks, her shoulder or ankle, whatever, she's all good because she now is eating whole foods. She eats a bit of cooked, she's not totally raw. And like I said before, totally fine with me. I teach her how to do it to keep more of the nutrients and not create those AGE or inflammation elements in there. My other customer, Andy, bloating. And yeah, it's amazing. After a week, I'm not bloated anymore. I said, well, yeah. So food is medicine. And that's what food is medicine, and living cuisine is, if you ask me, of course, the best medicine. But if you eat more vegetables already, you're on a good way for something very, very good.
Ooh. Can you give us an example? Like, what's your favorite dish to prepare? What's the most tasty dish that you love to eat and prepare? What is that? What does that look like?
So it's fascinating because I have my recipes, right? And people will say, well, do you prefer that pizza that you make, or that nori roll that you make, or that lasagna that you make, or that? And I go, every time I eat any of these, I go like, oh, so good. So I love all those dishes, and also they all the 5 stars from my cafe. I had 8 years of customer coming, and then it was like, Agathe, please don't change your menu. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and then they feel like they should just change the menu, and they take things out the menu, and then you go to the restaurant, you go, you don't have that dish anymore. I love that so much. No, we changed the menu. So I always have those 5-star, the people I love. I mean, I changed other things in my menu, but the things that people love, I always kept because they were specifically come for that. I love all that I prepare, but you know what I love as well? So I love all those foods. Like I said, it's looking more like, or people would say it's more like a dish where you have a burger on your dish, or a lasagna on your dish piece, or But what I love as well, and what is brilliant for us to do is, and I have a video on YouTube about that. I call it Salad Express. Is I have in my fridge a container. When I get all my vegetables, I take a container and I will already shred and cut and julienne and all of that into one container. Because at every meal, before I will eat my nori roll or my lasagna, I have a large salad. So what that does is, they say, if ideally you eat up to 30 different plants in a week, and don't worry, people, because seasoning is included. It's not that hard to get there. But if you eat a variety, you feed your microbiome a variety of food, and then all your microbes are active. So the way it works with the microbiome, they're fussy. They're just like us. There's certain things they like and certain things they don't like. So once you have the radicchio and the endives and the daikon, all those bitter things, and another one prefer to have the bell pepper and the beets that are sweeter. But they like that certain things. Certain nutrients come with certain food. So when you eat a variety, you really have a strong microbiome. And what that does, your immune system is so strong. I haven't been sick in 21 years. 21 years. Wow. And people will come to my cafe. Oh, no, because I'm a hugger. I love to hug people. And then, of course, all clients that came to the cafe, if they came more than twice, they got a hug. Right. I knew their name. They would walk in, hi, Paula. And I would give a hug. Oh, no, don't hug me today because I got a cold. I said, no, please hug me because I need an update because I'm never sick. So I need to have the latest of whatever might be going around. So my system, works at it because it can. Your immune system can totally fight so many things. Never mind all this story about whatever went on with COVID. My children came and visited me, and Mom, they would come with 2 masks on. I said, well, please take those off and give me a hug. So that's the other thing that is just amazing, how your immune system is so strong with the variety.
That's amazing. Can you talk to us about your arthritis?
Yes.
21 years ago. So where were you then? What were you experiencing? And how did you shift into eating living cuisine? And how did that change you?
Amazing. I would have never thought. Everybody hear the same thing. It's in your family, you're doomed.
Mhm.
You know, you have the cancer, everything that, you know, your parents have, you're being told you gotta get it. So I 45 years old, and I'm starting to feel the pain in my fingers, and not long. It started and very quickly went to a time where I couldn't close my hands anymore.
Wow.
It was so swollen that I couldn't close my hands anymore. And my little finger here does that, depending on the stage you're in, it clicks. And then you have to do this because it won't come back. On you, you can't make it come back. So it would click. I had to do this, put it back up. And then, yeah, my hands were all swollen. I couldn't button my shirt anymore. So it was all t-shirt over my head. It was all sweatpants because the zipper and the button, oh my gosh, that was a monumental task to do. Shoes, sleep on. If I kneel down on the floor, not thinking for a second, and I didn't have a chair nearby, I would go on my knees until I reach a table, a chair, or something to get back up because I couldn't on my own get back up.
Wow.
My children, 9, 11, and 14, it's like, what on earth am I going to do? Yes, my birth mother, very bad arthritis, twisted fingers, twisted toes. Same thing for her. Every time I visited her in the morning, she would have to go like this, you know, eventually. Well, I should go like this. She couldn't close like me. Go like this to eventually grab her cup, 2 hands to hold on her cup. And so, you know, for me, it was like, well, she has it. Obviously, I got it too. And then a friend, a dear friend, Katerina, and she knew about tapping. She knew about all sort of holistic modalities. And I visit her, and I had treatments from her. It was just lovely to have here, candling and whatnot. And she goes, Agathe, I have a book here on raw food. Why don't you take this home? And I did. And I look at the book, and it's very easy to read. They were mostly recipes. And then I went, oh, they're saying that by eating fruits, veg, nuts, and seeds, they resolve all their issues, which was for them diabetes, really awful back problem, and extreme overweight, like 150 pounds overweight. None of them were mine, but I went like, well, you know, they're saying to eat things that I was brought up with, fruits and veg, and not the nuts and seed. That wasn't a thing in my mom's repertoire, but the fruits and veg certainly. So I went like, okay, I'll just do that. And then, but I just did, like, without really assessing, should I not, how complicated it might be. I just did it. I prepared the meals for my family as usual. But for me, it was all raw food. And within a week, I was able to close my hands. I was like, oh my gosh. And then within 3 months, whatever my hands that I had problem with, my knees, my ankle, my whatever, somewhere, my, you know, shoulder in the morning, all gone, and never came back. So I did this 6 months on my own because, again, you know, of course, my husband at the time was looking at me like, Tito. And then, you know, was like, don't do this on our children yet. Let's watch you going first. And then I lost the extra weight. So I was really pleased with myself because, you know, being brought up, like I said, my mom was an awesome cook, but awesome pies. So I always had that 40, 50 pounds overweight. It just shed off me like in time and never came back. And then, so my husband at the time, let's watch you. So obviously, you know, my skin, I had very bad rosacea. Again, my mom, very bad rosacea and psoriasis. Really? All resolved, like it was cracking and bleeding here. And I was using stage makeup to cover up because it was red like Santa Claus. All gone. So really at that point, my husband couldn't say anymore. So the whole family, and I just transitioned them slowly. I didn't have any more of the bread to go around the burger. So they were eating their burger in a lettuce leaf, meat burger in a lettuce leaf. And then eventually I would call the kids and say, dinner is ready. And of course, they never came when I said, so I knew that. So there would be a plate of dips and all sorts of yummy things and vegetables, colorful, and they would eat that and enjoy that. And then 6 months after, they all transitioned to raw. And then they would say, oh, Mom, that tastes so good. And 2 days later, yeah, not the same. And that's when I started to do with grams. So I do all my recipe using grams. When I teach, people are not guessing. What's a half cup a day? No. It's 120 grams. So that's easy. You don't have to say, is it packed? Is it cut the size of my thumb? Is it this? Is it that? So really, that's 21 years ago. And I'm so grateful that I
We were saying back then, how my card I picked today, how people will transfer their fear and their, doubts and what they know, wanting you to do the same. And I was so blessed that I just kept on doing it. And you know what I'll tell you right here now is something that happens for me as a child, being adopted in 1958. I was called a bastard. I was second-class citizen, basically. So what I did is I didn't hang out with kids. They were just so mean. Not with adults either, because they would say to my mom, she is the adopted, not she's your daughter. So I hang out with animals. My mom, wonderful woman, amazing.
Yeah.
We were living on the island, and she talked to the neighbors. They had horses and cows and pigs, and I hang out with those animals. So I really made myself to be who I am today by I am who I am. I don't depend on what other people think. I mean, it always affects you somehow, but not as much. Let's put it this way. So when I switched to raw food and I kept to it, again, all the whatever around me was not affecting me. And I kept on doing what I did, and look at the results today. Who at 66 years old wouldn't want to have the energy, the getting up in the morning, no pains, no aches, no medication whatsoever? It's all something we have on our wish list. As I get older, I'd like to. Yes.
As I get older, I'd like to have your energy. Thank you very much. Lord, sometimes trying to keep up with you. Woo! Let me ask you this. What's the first step someone can take to start eating living cuisine and changing their eating? What's the very first step to do that?
Yeah, well, we can just then continue on what I just said. Who wouldn't want at any age to have the energy? No, nothing that stops you physically, nothing that stops you. So that's what it is. It's the very first thing is your why. Whatever that you take on in life. And look, Wendy, you're a coach, you know that. What is your why? And so is Stephanie. What is your why? And make it so clear, so strong, so not negotiable that you say, I watch this woman. I'd love to have what she's got.
Right.
I'm going to get in touch with her. Let me check her YouTube. That sounds easy. I'll do that. And why would I do that? Because I want the energy, because I have all those dreams and all those projects that I want to do. And I need to wake up in the morning and not have brain fog and not be, struggling with my gut issues, my arthritis, my diabetic, because all autoimmune diseases are, I shouldn't say all, diabetic type 1 is different, but there's only I think there's 4 illnesses that cannot be reversed. It can be reduced anyway, but all the others can be reversed. It's all lifestyle. So someone says, I want that lifestyle. I want, and that starts with what you have on your plate. Right. So I'm not telling you today, get this expensive powder that you eat every day that is tasteless. Do those crazy exercise that takes you 3 hours a day. None of that. You eat food. And then because I had those 8 years of a cafe, I learned, as well as 3 children when I started, I didn't have 2 hours in the kitchen. Right. I learned in my cafe as well, very ways to be so efficient, so effective. I love to do that with my client. The first thing I do is I say, okay, show me your kitchen. Let's see how you organize. Let me tell you how you organize yourself. So when you make a meal, you're not walking 5 steps to get the salt, 5 steps to get the celery, 10 steps across to get something else. Let me help you with this. It's a game changer. So there is that. There is, you have a why, it's very strong. Then find the person that will provide you with the tools. I really encourage you, sometimes you go, I'm just going to do it myself. You could. I mean, that might take you 2 years, or you can find someone, get the result now, and get on what it is that you're to do in your life. Get on it, because now you got someone backing you up, helping you, solving the whatever
our tools you have, giving you the tools, and then you can, invest into what you like to do. Play with your grandchildren. When we think of people older, maybe even arthritis now is for younger people,
Right.
get that sorted out right then, right now, and
Right.
enjoy your life.
Mhm.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I love everything you've been saying. So going back to like the arthritis thing, like growing up, when I was little, my feet turned in so severely that they actually put me in a cast when I was a baby, and it was like up to my hip, and I had a bar between my legs to like turn my foot out. And I think it honestly affected my joints and everything, because as like at like 14 my knees cracked so much, and like, it just was a thing. And then I danced for 25 years, and I did catering as well for a long time. And when I was in college and on, I did catering that was just like corporate catering around Boston. So I'd be running around with trays in the middle of winter, and my hand that held the trays, I would wear like fingerless gloves because you don't want the trays to slip. And so by probably 25-ish, like my fingers, they weren't as severe as like your mom or you, but and I never was diagnosed with arthritis, but I always was like, yeah, it's definitely here. I just deal, I could feel. I always joked that from 14 on, I could predict the weather because I could feel the storms coming, and when I got into essential oils and educating on essential oils, I learned about frankincense, and so I would take a drop of frankincense every night because it helps with healing the cells. Cellular healing and repair. And so I would take frankincense every night. And at some point along the way, and I just was like, I'm doing this in hopes that it works. And when it's your own pain, you don't necessarily notice once it's gone. And my husband one day, probably 6 months into it, was like, you haven't predicted weather in a really long time. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And
Wow.
You're feeling better.
And then at some point, like that summer, I ran out of frankincense, and I didn't want to order it right away because it's expensive. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to let it go. It's summertime. It's not like the winter when we have our winter storms, And then we got like a wicked bad summer storm, and I could feel it coming. Like when it was in New York, I could feel it. And I'm like, oh no, it's coming. And, but I personally have noticed that, in changing the way we eat, in changing what we do, in going all natural, in having my essential oils, all of that has played a role in really helping. Yeah, I still do get some aches and pains, but in comparison to what it was, and especially right now, I'm dealing with a thyroid thing and like inflammation in the body. So I like that talking to you, I'm like, it is reinvigorating my desire to go back towards those things. At the same time, a good friend of mine, probably almost 10 years ago now, she was getting divorced and like was just totally in the muck, right? And had gained a lot of weight in those last few years of trying to make things work. And once she knew what was happening and like where the world was, she was like, okay, I need to make a change. And it was like right at the beginning of the new year. So she signed up for this raw food institute that a woman we know who actually became a bit of a mentor for a while. She used to run in Connecticut. And so she went to this raw food institute, and it was like a 1 week intensive course retreat where they would eat raw and they would juice and they would learn all the beauty of all of this, and they'd learn about a bunch of other things as well. But because of it, she got all these cool recipes and things. And, by the end of the week, pretty much so many people saw such progress just in their bodies in a week's time, let alone what they continued to do. But she came home with all these recipes and was sharing with us, like, she came to a party at my house and like brought like a raw taco dip thing, or one of our favorite desserts is the raw carrot cake, just different things like that. But it's so funny because I started doing a lot of that, and my brother loves that too. And so my mom, whenever my brother and I cook, my mom's like, is this something weird? But it really does make such a difference in the body, and like you see how it does heal the body, it heals the skin. Sometimes it's a challenge because you get stuck in the muck of whatever your illness is, but even those baby steps, like you were saying, just like slowly integrating those things, adding more of it. Like I don't know if I've shared this story yet, but when I get a perioral dermatitis thing where I'll get irritations, and they tend to happen in the winter, and they tend to happen around somewhere between, they start about November, December, and they go until maybe February. Well, we have the holidays where we eat like crap. We have a lot of stress at that time.
Yeah.
Winter, skin in New England, not a good thing when you're like me. So all those things paralleled together, but I've only had two that were really, really bad. And one of them was particularly bad. And at the time my son was a baby, and I took him to his acupuncture appointment, and the woman looks at me and goes, you need to be on this table. So I ended up taking my mother's appointment, and my poor mom got booted. But right before that appointment, I had watched a whole thing about gut health, and I got like inspired by it. Sometimes you just have to rehear the things that you already know, but I got inspired by it, and I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna get some blueberries and some sauerkraut, and I'm gonna eat the raw things and the this and the that, like just boosting the certain vitamins that you need, and I only picked certain things to try and keep it easy, right? But I added those things, I eliminated certain foods that I had been eating. I started meditating again, like, and I went to this one acupuncture appointment like that one day, and within 3 days, I saw a huge difference in my skin. A week later, we went back to Gabe's appointment, and my acupuncturist and I had made an appointment that day. She looks at me and she's like, she literally had to talk to my body for like 20 minutes before she could figure out if she needed to do anything to me. And she's like, what did you do this week? And so I start rattling off all the things I did. But it's like those things that you can actually jump into that can help your body. It's so amazing, and
we come from the earth. We're so connected with the earth.
Yeah.
And when you go back, to eating that whole food, organic ideally, because again, the glyphosate, the fungicide, the grossicide, the pesticide, all the side are not meant to go into your microbiome.
No.
It's amazing the results you get. And like you said, within a week, and it's been proven. They did many tests now, like taking people that visit McDonald's 3-4 times a week, they stop, and within a week already a huge change. And as you said as well, Stephanie, what happens is not only physical, but your mental. I mean, for me, it was as well, like, when we separated, my husband and I, and then my children were still young. They were 11, 13 and 15 by then. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do, Agathe? You have teenagers. So zen in the house, so zen. From before, my youngest, super hyperactive, being asked to put them on Ritalin, which I never did, totally calmed down. My oldest son, so temper tantrum, crazy temper tantrum. He would make holes in the wall by kicking the wall, totally disappeared. My daughter, the same thing. She would scratch her head and all of that. So all the you feel a child that is on edge. All of that is so zen. So no, I had no issue. So myself as well.
Yeah.
From the time I switched the raw food, I stopped with my children when they were doing something I didn't like. I would just whisper. I didn't raise my voice anymore. I didn't say, I'm so upset. None of that. I would just whisper.
Right.
And they would stop like, oh, mom is really, telling me something now. And it's just, it changes physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of it, all of
It
it.
does.
You
It's
see the
crazy.
world, you connect with the world so differently. When you're in nature, you feel you're part of it. You
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy, I said to my children, because we didn't have any medication in the house once
Mm-hmm.
we went all raw. And if, they had a little bit of argument with sister, brother, okay, Sebastian, take that tree. Nicholas, take that tree, hug it. I'll
Yep.
count to 20.
Yeah.
So it was, nature offers so much. It
It does.
offers healing, no
Mhm.
kidding.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
I
Well,
love that.
that's I think probably a pretty good place to end, although we have so much more to talk about. And Chef Agathe, we will have you back again for sure. But I also want to give you just a minute to talk about your podcast. So share just a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, it's coming. Well, just like you girls, mine is to launch in early October, and my podcast is the Wellness Tribe. And the podcast, the goal of the podcast is having people just like you with your passion to come on my podcast and share that passion. And then people who listen feeling that, and I love the fact that, we are all accessible. Like I said, I listen to Mel Robbins and Lewis House and Jay Shetty and Bruce Lipton, but can I email them? No. So, but my podcast would be, just people like us that have a passion and we share. And then people hear us and they go, don't they go like, I will then live with the music that I have in, like they say, don't die with the music in you. So what you have in you, that is a passion, that is a calling. And instead of, oh, I can't, no, 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 take the time, skip the TV show, skip the whatever you may listen to, invest that 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours in a week, that otherwise you do something that, and then invest that time into your calling. And then eventually you switch over to do your calling in your living, while you're living, not after you're dying. And then, so that's the podcast. I'm so thrilled to this. I can't wait to have it on. And I'll have you girls on. I just,
All
it's going to be
right.
awesome.
That'd be
Yes.
awesome.
Oh, we'd love that. Well, so thank you so much, Chef Agathe. We will be posting all of her links, her podcast link, social media link, website, YouTube, all of the things, so you can get in touch with her. She's not like Mel Robbins that you can't email. You can't email her. So thank you so much, Chef Agathe, and we'll see you next time on Smiling Souls.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you too for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.